can't talk about R&B music and not mention Bryan-Michael Cox.
I knew I wanted to be a producer-songwriter before that. I knew I wanted to be a songwriter and a producer in the 5th grade.
When you sit down to write Confessions, that was one of those moments that changed the game as a songwriter, because you're like, the conversation is the song.
So we're sitting in the studio and they're just talking, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just sitting behind the keyboard like,
when we gonna start?
When we gonna start? You know what I mean? And after about an hour and a half of talking, I realized I was like, we're writing. Okay. As a producer, the lesson was less is more.
You're in Houston. You were hanging out with who would become Destiny's Child.
As fate would have it, Beyonce and LaToya ended up at my high school. And one day they called me and was like, hey, we want to do some songs with you.
That songwriting process, when you get to Emancipation of Mimi, when you get to the Confessions album with Usher, where is your headspace? Like, what are you thinking about?
When I realized my position, like what my position is supposed to be when writing with Jermaine, was when we were doing Let's Get Married. The very first time I ever worked with Mariah Carey, I sang background on the song.
Welcome to Vault and Powers Talks, where we don't just scratch the surface, we dive deep into the lives of the world's most influential change makers. I'm your host, Brandi Harvey. Now, if you had your radio on, if you had a CD player in the 99s and the 2000s, baby, you didn't heard this man's penmanship. Bryan-Michael Cox has had over 35 consecutive number ones, 10 Grammy Awards, over 100 million records sold, and status as one of Billboard's top 10 producers of the 21st century, securing him as nothing less than a musical architect. From starting on piano at age 6 in his church to crafting timeless anthems for stars like Usher, Mariah Carey, Janet Jackson, Mary J. Blige, and Toni Braxton, just to name a few, Bryan has become the blueprint for contemporary R&B mastery. Now, as the founder and CEO of Illustrate New Ideas and Senior VP of A&R and Executive Producer at LVRN, he's redefining how hits are made and how culture is shaped. Vault and Powers Talks welcome producer, songwriter, and cultural icon, Bryan-Michael Cox, to the show.
What's up, I need you to do my intro every time. It's fantastic.
Listen, it is a pleasure. We finally got you here.
Yeah, I know we've been trying to figure it out. We figured it out.
We figured it out.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, legendary. Yeah. I am so excited to have this conversation. I think every song that you have ever penned has shaped some part of my journey.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm always grateful for when I hear things like that. That's what we do it for. We do it to shape people's soundtrack. You know what I mean? And that's always the best compliment that I could ever be paid.
I mean, 99 Jagged Edge, I was telling you before, he can't love you. I said if you was in high school in 99 and 2000, if he wasn't sending you, he can't love you.
Is it love?
Is it love?
Is it love?
It wasn't love if you wasn't sending me, he can't love you.
100%.
I mean, and that was your first big hit.
Yeah, one of them. I had two that year. So Ideals, Get Gone, and He Can't Love You. Those were the first two breakout records that I, as coming into this business, I had been trying to, break through. And that was like a real breakthrough moment for me. And that's kind of opened up the floodgates, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To where I'm at this point now.
I mean, I have to go back because you got your start in the church, as so many people in the music industry. You started in the church. You was in this Pentecostal church. You was playing the piano.
Yeah. So it's so many different elements to it. So my grandfather was a pastor. So I was living with my grandparents at the time when I discovered that I wanted to play piano. You know what I'm saying? So there is, a couple of people in my life during that period that's very instrumental in inspiring me to want to do it. There's a guy by the name of Ray Angry who was from Miami also, and his father was an elder at the same church. So we always looked up to Ray, and he was a very, very instrumental part of me wanting to play the piano. You know what I'm saying? Because he was just phenomenal. He's still one of the greatest, to this day. So, and then so my grandfather was a Pentecostal minister, so being in that environment, once my grandfather saw that I wanted to play an instrument, it's your job now. You better go get.
We got a place
Yeah,
for
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it started, and then my mother came and got me. We live in Houston. Grew up in Houston. So I left Miami, went to Houston, and then I started going to another Pentecostal church, Assemblies of God, group in Assemblies of God. So it's the 80s. Assemblies of God might have been like my first experience, like in like it felt like a non-denominational church, but it was a Pentecostal church, but it was super, super mixed. Like for the first time I was, you saw black people, white people. It was just really interesting, interesting perspective. And then, so they had, a lot of opportunity for you to flourish in music there. You know what I'm saying? So then that kind of, picked up the slack from there too.
Yeah. But then your aunts and your mom, you said they was outside. They was
Yeah,
at
they was
church,
outside.
but they was
at church.
outside.
They was outside too. So, my mother and my aunts were very, very into. They loved music. Like they loved music. They loved all kinds of music, and so I grew up on all kinds of music. I grew up listening to all kinds of things, from gospel to jazz to funk to R&B. Like my mother was a huge funk fan, so we had all the funk records. Like my first, my first album, famously the first album I ever got in my life. My sixth birthday. I got the Rick James Cold-Blooded album, like Who Gives Their Child Rick James Cold-Blooded, 1983.
Yeah.
But that's what she got me. You know what I'm saying? So throughout the years, that was always like a theme. Like my aunts, my mom and my aunts would always give me either like a tape or an album or a couple albums or whatever. So throughout the years, I started collecting. I became a record collector very early. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, you become a certain age and you start having your own taste in music. So then you start buying your own things. And, from there, it just grew.
I mean, it grew, but by the time you were in high school, you knew you wanted to be a songwriter.
I knew I wanted to be a producer-songwriter before that. I knew I wanted to be a songwriter and a producer in the 5th grade.
Wow.
But I knew that. Like, I knew what I was going to be. I remember seeing Quincy Jones' name on albums, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis names on albums, Teddy Riley, who... really, he was the person that actually made it like a real thing for me. Like, I want to be like him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So early on, I mean, as far back as I remember, it was like 5th grade. I remember telling my 5th grade teacher I was going to be a music producer, and she tried to discourage me from being. Because
really?
Yeah, because just like people
who
can't.
Does that?
Yeah, like who can you can't even fathom that as a 5th grade math teacher.
Yeah.
In 1987, whatever year it was, you know what I mean? Like, you got this kid, everybody's going around saying they're going to be whatever they're going to be, and it all seems feasible. A lawyer, a cop, a doctor, it all feels like it's tangible. To be like, I'm going to be a music producer, a world-class music producer like Quincy Jones or Teddy Riley, like it just seemed impossible, for you to tell a kid in Houston, Texas classroom that this is what he's gonna do. This is what he's gonna do. You know what I mean? So I remember her being like, "Oh, you got to find a better goal than that. Like, that's impossible."
That's so crazy. Yeah.
But I knew it then.
I mean, you're in Houston. You were hanging out with who would become Destiny's Child. Who
that was a little later on.
Beyonce.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Matthew Knowles.
Yeah.
Gave you some encouragement when you were in the studio.
Well, what happened was, here's what happened. We'd always cross paths with the girls, with Beyonce, Kelly, Latavia, LaToya. We were always crossing paths. I'm a little older than they are. But they were on the scene, locally performing, and they had been on Star Search, and they had already came to Atlanta and worked with Dal Simmons. So they had like a folklore going on in the city. They were already kind of like known, and people knew that they were kind of like, they knew that they were on the verge of something. You know what I'm saying? And as fate would have it, Beyonce and LaToya ended up at my high school. My senior year of high school, they came as freshmen. So I knew the extent of what they were doing. You know what I mean? So we were already kind of friends, but when they came to my high school, we became like really close friends. So we would talk every day, and they were telling me about what their experiences were. They would leave school and go to Oakland and, work with Dwayne Wiggins, God bless the dead. Go work with Dwayne Wiggins on projects and come back, and they would call, my mom would allow me to call them long distance, and they would play me what they were doing on, you know, over the phone and things of that nature. Like we had a really, really great like childhood friendship or teenage friendship with all of them. All four of them, Kelly and Latoya, are still like my girls to this day. And that relationship, those relationships, actually, you know, expanded to when Michelle joined the group, and now me and Michelle, are, you know, I'm just, those are my girls. You know what I mean? And I would bug Beyonce and Latoya, you know, like, yo, man, I got a song for y'all. You know, it would always be like, got a song, you know. And one day they called me and was like, hey, you know, we want to do some songs with you. Beyonce and Latoya and Kelly called me. We want to do some songs with you. You know, so I was working with my mentor, Greg Curtis, at the time. He had a studio, and we were like, hey, all right, you know, we're gonna put some songs together and come down. So we put some songs together, and Matthew came. Matthew came to the studio and played us. We played him what we had, and he liked it. You know, it was like one of the first times that ever happened where like a person of that kind of stature was actually in the business, could actually do something for us. Came to the studio, we played him some songs, and he liked the songs and was like, oh, I'm sending the girls over here to, you know, to cut the record on this day, this and the third. I was like, oh, snap. So, you know, for me, that was like, once that happened, that's all that needed to happen for me, was just have one person say, hey, what you guys are doing, it's good. You know, we could the girls come over and cut it. Then the girls came and cut it, and the songs came. They sounded. They took it to a whole nother level. For me, it was the first time working with a group of people that it felt like, oh no, they know what they're doing. Like they, you know what I mean? It was. They were so beyond their years at that age. I don't think people really understand how advanced those girls were at the time. And for me, it just put a battery in my back. Like, oh man, my friends are actually this good. You know what I'm saying? Like, we knew about them. We see them perform. We see people perform as good. But to be in the studio and be like, oh no, these girls, whatever it is,
they got it.
They got it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It.
And it was a eye-opening moment for me. You know what I'm saying? And I just remember that session, that moment, really was like, okay, this is. I've been saying I wanted to do this. I've been wanting to do this. I'm going to go do this. You know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing else out there. There's nothing else out here in this world for me. This is it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
I mean, you leave Houston, come to Atlanta. Mm-hmm. You originally, because your girlfriend at the time, right?
Well, that's part of it. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, I think ultimately I was going to end up in either Atlanta or New York. You know, that was where I was heading. No matter what, my first choice was New York at the time. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously this is the late '90s, and New York was just kind of like
the epicenter.
You know? Yeah. So my first choice was New York, but then the Atlanta thing came about because, like I said, my girlfriend at the time, she had got accepted to school out here, and it was kind of like, well, no, I'm like, well, Atlanta might be a better fit because LaFace was here, So Def was here, Dark was here. So a lot of my favorite brands and favorite producers and creatives are already like making noise. Organized Noise was here, you know, Tricky Stewart. Like a lot of my favorite people who I read credits and looked up to were already like here. You know, Noontime was here. It was a bunch of people that were already here that I was like, well, this might be a better. When it came up, it was kind of like, wait a second, this actually probably makes more sense than going to New York. You know what I mean? Because I was really going to New York. I mean, and granted, either way, I was following a friend. So whether I was following my girl here to Atlanta or my best friend Robert Glasper was moving to New York. So I was following a friend. I either was going to go to New York and, you know, try to figure it out, you know, with Rob, or I was going to come, you know, to Atlanta with my girlfriend and, you know, figure out my own way.
Yeah.
And I decided to come to Atlanta because it just felt more accessible. If it didn't. I was kind of fearful of New York at the time. You know, I didn't have any. I couldn't grasp the idea of the big city at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was definitely fearful of Los Angeles at the time. Los Angeles wasn't even an option for me at that point. You know what I mean? For me, it was either going to be Atlanta or New York. And I also said whoever sent a letter back first, whatever college sent the letter back first, that's where I was going. And then Clark sent the letter back
Clark
first.
sent the letter back
Yeah.
first.
I was like, that's where I'm going, yeah.
I mean, and you come to Atlanta in the 90s, and you have totally, I mean, when you talk about cemented yourself in the musical landscape of Atlanta, you cannot talk about Atlanta R&B music. You can't talk about R&B music and not mention Bryan-Michael Cox.
Yeah.
And that is, you came in at a time where it just felt different in Atlanta.
Well, I think ultimately, yeah, it felt different, but I think it was a time of discovery. You know, Atlanta was on fire, or was actually beginning to be even more on fire, because Atlanta had already, by the time I got here, Atlanta was already popping.
You know,
they were already popping by the time I got here. And it was already like, you know, it was like a big deal to be here. But I just feel like that extra timing is everything. I feel like I just came in at a time when it was just like, I came to the city where it was just like getting ready to like take off into this like stratosphere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just was, you know, blessed to be a part of that, you know, that transition. You know what I mean? Getting with a proper team, you know. I just think that just was all, you know, it was all God. It wasn't, you know, it was definitely all God. So, you know.
It was divine, but your work ethic, I want you to talk about this, because everybody wants to be the one that's name is in lights and gets to be on the list now of the top producers of the century, of the 21st century, of the decade, and 38 number one hits and all of that.
Yeah.
But when you started off, you were like, you don't even got to pay me. Just give me the keys and the alarm code, and I'm going to show up because I want to work.
I mean, because, you know, my question was always, what else are you doing? You know, outside of pursuing whatever you want to pursue. Like, you got 24 hours in one day. You came to Atlanta to do this. I mean, obviously, you came for college, but I was studying music education in college. So what was I doing? I was going to be a music teacher or a music producer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was like, you know, it was like, what else are you doing out here? You know what I mean? Like, you know, you have to make the best of your time out here. And that was kind of like what my head was. Like, I knew I didn't want to go back to Houston. You know, I just knew that whatever was for me, when I got here, whatever was for me was here. And it was like, okay, let me really, you know, buckle down and, you know, take advantage of the time that I have here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's basically what happened. I just felt like, I've always felt this way, that, you know, hard work beats talent. You know, there are a lot of talented people. I know a lot of super talented people who at home. You know what I'm saying? You know, just to keep it, you know,
all the way real.
Keep it a buck. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people who are just naturally, you know, gifted, but because sometimes your gift is handicap. It can handicap you because you feel like you're so gifted that somebody's going to give you something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So for me, I never took that approach. I always took the approach of like, okay, what can I do to what's the next step? Who can I, you know? And I granted, if you mix that with favor, right?
Yeah.
Then, you know, I mean, 'cause, you know, some of us have favor. There've been a lot of situations where I've had favor, you know what I mean, where things just happen or just came to me. But I've never taken that. I never take that for granted. I never be like, oh yeah, well, it's just gonna happen. And there's like, yeah, it could just happen, but let me put some work in on top of that
Let me put
to ensure
some
you
work
know,
in on top of
that
that.
that whatever I'm trying to get to is going to get there. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, because people don't even understand. You did background vocals on the Emancipation of Mimi.
I've seen background vocals on a lot of things that I've produced. I think that is just it's just a skill in the studio. And you know, once Mariah heard me, actually, my very first time working with Mariah, before all of that, we did a song on her Rainbow album in '99. And the very first time I ever worked with Mariah Carey, I sang background on the song. So it was just Mariah as a person that when you are working with her, if she recognizes a extra skill that you have, she's going to utilize it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's just who she is as a creative, as a songwriter, as a producer. You know, she's gonna use everybody in the room. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Yeah, you got a voice. Sing, okay, sing this part. Like she's that. You know what I mean? She's that.
I want you to talk about the songwriting process because during this time, I mean, of course, you wrote on the Jagged Edge album.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, your relationship with Jermaine Dupri
Mm-hmm.
like totally blossoms, and you all really became a duo. Like
Yeah.
you all worked really really well together.
Yeah.
But I want you to like talk about that songwriting process when you get to Emancipation of Mimi, when you get to the Confessions album with Usher. Where is your headspace? Like what are you thinking about? Are you only like I'm just writing all day every day?
Well, no, I mean it's very, very. It definitely, uh, it definitely varies. You know what I'm saying? You know, different projects per project. You know, you just have to know. I know how to navigate the room, right? I know how to get in where I fit in, right? So in a lot of cases, um, like for example, when I realized my position, like what my position is supposed to be when writing with Jermaine, was we were doing Let's Get Married, right? So that was early on. Let's Get Married is probably part of the first batch of records that we actually did together, and I thought going into working with Jermaine that I was just gonna kind of like play on stuff and like we were gonna make beats together and then hand the beats off to writers to write and I didn't really understand what our dynamic would be. And it kind of happened that way. The first record we did was Keys to the Range, where we did the beat, and then Brian and Brandon came and they wrote the song and Jagged Cut. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of was like a normal thing. But then when we got to Let's Get Married, I realized something that it clicked for me in a way that I had no idea would. He asked me to start playing some chords, to start playing some different chords, and we found a groove with like a good chord progression, and he started writing the hook. And I was confused at first because I didn't realize that he was going to start writing. I thought we were just doing this for Brian and Brandon to come and they were going to write, the part. I guess that's how it usually works. Brian and Brandon come and they write the song.
Because they
for
write.
They are songwriters.
They are songwriters, yes.
So, but he started writing the hook. And as he's writing, now my brain is thinking back to all of his other records, like other R&B records. And I'm like, oh, he wrote them songs. Like he wrote You Make Me Wanna. Oh, he wrote, Just Kicking It. Oh, because now I can hear the style. Like he's writing, he's just singing out loud, right? I'm like, oh, okay, he has a style of writing. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be the person that provides the musical undertone for what he has to do as a songwriter. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how we started really getting into that mode with me and him, right? And then we get to a place where he would be like, well, we'll be in a room together, and he'll ask me to write. Him writing actually made me start writing more.
Really?
Yeah, because I really didn't before then. I was writing, but then after when I came down there, I got signed to Noontime, and I started making making beats and working with people like Jonte and working with Brian and Brandon and working with these incredible songwriters. Then it's like, okay, all I gotta do is focus on producing. You guys, we'll get the song to the finish line. You know what I mean? But when I started working with Jermaine, he brought me back into the writing part of the creation. So, but it varies. You know what I'm saying? It's just you have to know how to navigate the room. For example, that's the Let's Get Married thing is a good example. We work with Mariah, it's a whole nother process. Mariah's a person where we'll come up with a concept, or she'll have a concept. She always has a notebook she's always doodling and writing things in a notebook. So she'll have a concept, or we may come up with a concept, and all together. And we're in the room, and there's a mic in the room, and we'll just pass the mic around, and everybody will do melodies, and then she kind of copies and pastes.
Yeah.
How she, what she wants, what she likes, and then we'll identify what's what. So that's a whole nother process that I didn't really know about until I worked with her. So I learned that process with her, which now I use, you know, we are working with Ari Lennox. That's what we do now. We sit in the room with Ari, we pass the mic around, and we come up with melodies. And, you know what I mean? So these are all things that you just throughout the years, you just learn things, you learn techniques, and you just apply it to your you put it in your arsenal of tools. You know what I mean? And then so when you're in situations, you're like, okay, I'm in the studio with so and so and so. She's a writer, but she collaborates well, or he collaborates well. Why don't we just plug a mic up and now just pass the mic around and figure out what's what? And, you know, depending on, you just have to just know how to navigate. That's really the gift of being a producer. You have to know how to navigate. Yeah.
I mean, when you sit down to write Confessions, that was one of those moments that changed the game as a songwriter, because you're like, the conversation is the song.
Well, really, that was before Confessions. That happened when You Got It Bad. So You Got It Bad was the biggest lesson I learned as a producer and a songwriter.
What was that lesson?
Well, as a producer, the lesson was less is more, right? You Got It Bad has like 7 sounds in it. You know what I mean? It's not a whole lot of clutter. It's beautiful chord progressions, but it's not a whole lot of clutter. It's not stacked with a bunch of different sounds. It's a kick, snare, hi-hat, a keyboard sound, one bass sound, and a guitar. You know what I mean? It's very, very, you know, straight to the point. The vocals are there's not a whole lot of harmonies in the hook. You know, it's all unison. It's very, very to the point. Usher's vocal is sitting dead on top of the track, so you hear him loud and clear, but the track is still bumping. Says I learned things about mixing. I learned things about actually producing a track, like putting together a simple track that's powerful. You know what I mean? Jermaine taught me a lot in that one session. And then songwriting-wise, that was the first time that I had an opportunity to just talk. You know, like just be in a room and talk with Jermaine and Usher, because they were talking, and I was like, are we gonna do this song? Or, you know what I mean? It was like, you know, it was like my first real session with Usher. So we're sitting in the studio, and they're just talking, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just sitting behind the keyboard, like,
when we gonna start?
When we gonna start? You know what I mean? And after about an hour and a half of talking, I realized, I was like, we're writing. Okay. Now, so now let me engage in this conversation, because we're actually writing right now, and that's how You Got It Bad came about. And now I always tell people, I get the concept of the song is in the conversation, because that was the first time it ever happened. We were just sitting around talking, and literally 2 hours later, after the conversation, we wrote You Got It Bad. Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, did you think when you were sitting in that session that record would take off the way that it did?
After we finished it, yes.
Yeah.
It was also, that's another thing. It was also another moment was that it was the first time I actually heard a song, we finished the song, and knew it was a hit. Like, you know, up until that point, you do songs and you hope.
Yeah.
Songs and you hope. Okay,
yeah.
I hope people like the song. I hope this song, it feels good to me. When You Got It Bad, it was like, oh, okay, this is what a hit feels like.
This is a hit.
You know what I mean?
It's like L.A. Reid, like in his book, when in his memoir, he talks about those moments in the studio where it was like he knew "Unbreak My Heart" for Toni Braxton was the hit.
Yeah. That was the moment. It was a aha moment for me. I think also, Let's Get Married felt like that too. When we finished Let's Get Married, it felt like
this a hit.
This sounds like it's gonna be big.
Yeah.
Now at that point, I had no idea, because I was really new to the game, and I was just happy to be, you know, in the room. You know what I'm saying?
You happy to be in that you was on the call sheet. Yeah.
But by the time we got You Got It Bad, I was like, when we finished You Got It Bad, it was like, oh, this feels very, very different. You know what I mean? It feels like I put out some songs that were hits, but it's like this finna be like one of them.
It's about to take off. I know it had to have felt like that with Emancipation of Mimi.
Yeah. I mean, I think that with Mariah, you just, you know, once she's a hit machine.
She's Mariah.
So it's like, you know, you just buckle up, and you just have fun. You know what I mean? I think ultimately I tell people that emancipation. First of all, I always have fun. We always have fun.
You said y'all be having a red wine.
Yeah, we
Mariah
always have fun.
Yeah.
We always have fun. But I feel like that was the first time I actually looked back on a session or was in a session and was like, yo, this is, I mean, I always have fun in my studio sessions, but working is fun to me. So like creating is fun. But this was something that was kind of like, she just said, Mariah got a different kind of bag, when it comes, she got different kind of money, different kind of, different kind of everything.
It's a different experience.
It's a different experience, you know what I mean? So the way that she would set things up, before she got there, and it would be like all the things, the studio would be tricked out, and it'd be all the, it just, and she comes in floating, and she has her aura is just, you know what I mean? She has a great spirit and just a great, she's eager to create. So then that is all that rubs off on everybody in the room, and you kind of just like, and then you fly to New York, and you work, and you go to the penthouse, and you writing at a crib, and it's just all these different things that she just has a different kind of motion when it comes to creating. You know what I mean? And it probably, like I say, Emancipation probably was the most fun I've ever had making a record.
Wow. I mean, 38 consecutive number ones. Mm-hmm. Which has been your favorite to write and produce?
That's a good question. Ironically, there's most recently, I would say we had a lot of fun making "Don't Waste My Time" for Usher. I think that there's a funny story behind it. Because I was on, I jump on my live every now and again. I'll DJ on my live, or when I'm making a beat, I'll jump on. And we were creating the song. Don't Waste My Time. Originally, that beat was originally for Monica. We were making a song for Monica, and I cut the live on, and I started creating. Me and Jermaine started creating what would become the track. And the A&R, who's my business partner and one of my best friends, named Keith Thomas, who also owns this brand, Ladies of R&B, with me, he jumped on my live and was like, I'm on my way up there. Like, that's an Usher song. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, man, we're doing this song for Monica, man. No, man, that's Usher song. I'm on my way up there. And he came up there, he basically hijacked the record. Like, basically was like, nope, this record's for Usher. And then Mark Pitts leaked it, and then it became a thing. So I like that story a lot. I would say it's hard to pick one. He Can't Love You is a great one because it's kind of like, out the box. You have a big R&B record.
That was the thing that really put you on the map.
Get Gone is a great one. There's another early one that's just out the box. You know what I'm saying? I mean, naturally, Be Without You is a moment.
I think that what I saw on your Instagram, 15 weeks at number one.
Mm-hmm.
Mary J. Blige, Be Without You.
Yeah, it's the biggest R&B song of all time, according to Billboard. So
wow.
That was a moment. That was a great moment.
And you saw that one in the studio, that this is the hit.
After we mixed it, that record actually gave me, like, it made the hairs on my neck stand up.
Wow.
It was kind of like, oh, this is going to change my life.
Wow.
But I knew it. Like, it was like, I bet at that point I had made records, already made hits, and stuff like that. But it was a lot happening in my career at that time. It was a lot of tension, a lot of just, tug of war going on.
Probably growing pains.
Yeah, it was growing pains, relationships in the business.
Yeah.
I was a lot of my relationships in the business were being tested. You know what I mean? And it was a moment like, can he do this? It was almost like, like.
So people were doubting you in this
That's what it felt like. And maybe it's something I was imagining. I don't know, but that's what it felt like. It felt like it was kind of.
Because what year is this?
2005.
Yeah.
So it felt like I was doing well. I was doing okay, but it just felt like, I wasn't getting I was making a lot of records. I was making records with Jermaine. I was making a lot of records on my own, and I felt like I still wasn't getting, like, the proper, like, looks or the proper, like, respect. It kind of felt like I was just kind of like on autopilot.
So this was a proving record in a lot of ways.
Yeah, if I look back on it, it definitely it feels that way. It felt that way. You know what I'm saying? So when we got the call to do it, to write the song, me and Jonte, I just was like, you know, it happened so fast. The song came together so quickly.
Really?
One of the fastest songs I've ever done. You know what I mean? So I knew that when that happened, and we finished the demo, and it was like, this is good. You know, the demo was still kind of rough, but it was like, this is good.
Was always for Mary J. Blige.
We did the song specifically for Mary J. Blige. We got the call, and my manager called me. He called me with Mary's ex-husband and Jimmy Iovine on Kendu and Jimmy on the call, and it was like, yeah, can you make us one of those rhythmic crossover type songs that you do for whoever whatever. I was like, okay. And long story short, I called Jonte on the phone. I was like, hey, I just got this call from my manager. I guess I already called Jonte, and then I called Jonte after and was like, hey, yo, I'm going. Can you come by here?
Yeah.
I'm gonna start this track. I bet, and literally, I made the track. Like, it was so fast. It was ridiculously fast. And by the time, I played a little bit over the phone for Jonte. By the time Jonte got there, I mean, the song was pretty much written. He basically written the song on the way from the house to the studio. So by the time he got to the studio, we were just ready. It was almost like we only sat for like maybe, he played it for maybe 5 minutes. The little sequence for like 5 to 10 minutes. And he was like, okay, I'm ready. No paper, no pen, just went in there, sang the song down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did Mary feel like it was a hit? Because sometimes artists will be like, I didn't like the song at first.
I think Mary liked the song. I mean, it was something we did. It was based on, at the time, what she was, going through at the time. She was in a really happy place.
Yeah.
She was in a, this new marriage, and it was fresh. It was new. It was great at the time. And she explicitly told us what she wanted to talk about. So we delivered what she wanted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, respect to Kendu in the creative process, because he really, he was a champion, you know what I mean, for that record in the building. It felt like, Jimmy Iovine was not really, big on R&B at the time. They weren't really, Interscope was a huge hip-hop pop label.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a whole lot of R&B at the time, So it was just kind of like, okay, Ron Fair, who was the chairman of Geffen at the time and who helped me get the record to the finish line. He did all the string arrangements, all the vocal stuff. He's gonna help me get. I learned that like I said, every year, you learn something new. And that was the first time I saw like a proper, string section, like a really 50-piece string section.
Wow.
He arranged for that, and me and him.
Because the whole opening is strings of that record, yeah.
Yeah. But like I did strings, keyboard strings. So he kind of took my keyboard strings and expanded it in the way he arranged it. And I was watching, like I was able to watch him do this like on the spot. And it was like a moment like, oh snap, let me put that in my toolbox real quick too. So I learned a lot from Ron Fair doing that session. But it was a lot going on personally, business wise. So that song to me, when I heard the mix back, I was in New York working with Joe, and they sent the mix back. And I remember listening to the mix. Akon came to see me, and Boo and all them had came to see me. And I was like, y'all want to hear this Mary song? I thought we just want to listen to this mix. Cool. Played them Divine, all my peeps were in New York. And I played the song, and we all were just kind of like speechless after the song was over. It was kind of like,
this the one.
Everybody looking around like, oh, this shit is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, this is going to change everything. It was like, okay, the respect and everything you're looking for, this song here is going to actually change everything. And the fact that Mary really was generous with like shouting us out, and really every chance she got, she was like, Bryan-Michael Cox, Jonte Austin, like she really was going hard, you know what I mean, for us, you know what I mean, in a way that a lot of artists hadn't done before, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I was making a lot of records for a lot of artists, and even people who were like my people,
They would never say
they would just go on TV and
this is my record.
you know what I mean?
Look what I did.
And not that I was looking for that. I was cool with just getting my money and
being a producer.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But when Mary started speaking my name and speaking me and Jonte's name, then I saw the difference in the business too. I saw the difference in the deals I was making when you have somebody that prominent with your name on their lips. You know what I'm saying? So now it becomes a little more urgent to the record labels when you see my name. When I send that invoice over, it's not a hesitation anymore. It's like, okay, no, we're going to pay that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's legit.
Because once she started saying my name, then it started. It was like a snowball effect. The next thing you know, I'm making a band. Next thing you know, I'm doing, you know what I mean, all these different things because she spoke my name first.
Yeah.
Out of everybody, I mean, she went on every platform. When that song was coming with Blum, she went every platform, and she was like, Bryan-Michael Cox and Jonte Austin.
Yeah.
And so I learned also how valuable that is, how valuable that cosign is. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you get that moment, and it opens up even more doors for you. You get on the show making the band, and you're like, it didn't even feel real to you for the role that you had already been playing as a producer, as a musical, as a songwriter.
For me, making the band was interesting in so many ways, right? I was able to be a part. The first season I was the girls. Mm-hmm. The girl, Danny Kane, they were already a group. Yeah. When I came on, they were trying to just figure out their name, and they were trying to make an album.
Yeah, their
when
sound.
I came on.
Yeah.
So I knew Juanita D. Woods. I know D. Woods from here, and so I had a relationship with her already. And then, of course, when I met the other girls, we kind of, we hit it off really instantly, and it was weird to have cameras in the room, But for me, I was like, yo, while everybody else is trying to get a moment on TV, for me, it was like, let me get as many songs cut with these girls' voices on it now. You know what I'm saying? So everybody's doing demos. This became my strategy for both Danny Kane and Day 26 when I started working Day 26. My strategy was no demos. I'm gonna write the song. We're gonna do the song, and I'm not playing demos for A&R. I'm not playing demos for Puff. I'm not playing. We're gonna play the song with the voices on it. So what I would do is we do the demo. I get the girls. Hey, even if they're filming, who's not filming? Let me get y'all two in here. Let's do these parts real quick. And somebody go get D Woods, do whatever. Somebody go get Dawn, and I was basically having them in and out while they would have to go off and film, if they're filming other parts, So,
on the show.
But I would try to get the song done in that day, in that period. And then, when it's time to present at the end of the week or the end of the term, I'm presenting full songs with their voices on it. And that's how I was able to kind of dominate those projects the way I did, because it was kind of like everybody was trying to get on TV. I didn't care about TV.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't care about being on, even though I ended up being on there and being like a fixture, especially when it came to Day 26, because I was a part of the actual process of finding the
selecting,
group, right? So me, Joe, and Mike Bivens and Lorianne, like we were, so that became a thing, but for the most part, I didn't care about, getting any TV time per se. Yeah. I was like,
I'm here to work.
Let's get these songs finished. Let's get these, you know what I mean? And me and my team, that's what we did. You know what I'm saying? And we was working around the clock, trying to get songs finished, trying to get things done, and ended up paying off. We had, two number albums with each group. Yeah, so each group had two albums that were number one.
Baby, they was a vibe. Yeah. Listen, we in the car. Yeah. We riding slow.
Danny Kane, I feel like those groups, I said this recently, I feel like if those groups, it kind of, making a band, we wouldn't know them without making a band, but I kind of feel like if they could have been a group without that platform,
The cameras
those
on
groups
them.
would have been huge.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that. I believe that if Danny Cage had came out of nowhere,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, with them same singles, with them same, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing with Day 26. If Day 26 just would have came out of nowhere, because they had #1 albums. So
Yeah.
I feel like what happened was MTV got, they got the #1 albums and like, okay, cool, we done. Versus like really getting invested in making them
Yeah, there was
stars.
no nurturing.
Yeah, it was kind of like,
with their talent.
we album #1, good. On to the next season. It's like, wait. There's depth to these albums. There's songs on here that need like, wait a minute, like treat this like a real project. Like what's going on?
Let
you know
them
what I
cook.
mean? I think the albums were a means to an end for MTV per se, and not necessarily a serious thing.
Yeah.
for
I
them.
mean, when you look back on it in that era of during that time of being a person who was watching it, when you say that, yeah, you see that now.
Yeah, they were just trying to get ratings. Like they didn't they selling albums, like making them actual stars. I don't think the MTV was invested like that.
No.
You know what I mean? And I think there was only so much at the time that that the label could do, that Bad Boy or Atlantic could do. You know what I'm saying? Because you only had so much money. You know what I'm saying? And I think that if MTV wasn't invested, I feel like Atlantic was kind of like, well, we got #1 album.
Yeah.
Let's move on. They want to move on. Let's move on. I just don't think that, doubling down, like how I worked on certain projects and I would see labels double, triple, quadruple down.
Which was one of those projects that you saw that?
Name Usher, anybody. You know what I'm saying? Any artist that is successful, you know what I'm saying? Most times the label is quadrupling down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, for I saw the investment in the actual, and of course there was tension. There's always tension when you're making a project like Confessions. There's always tension between the label and the artist and the creatives and the label. And I was working at Aristotle at the time. So it was always tension. But I got a front row seat to see a person like L.A. Reid quadruple down. You know what I'm saying? Like this is my premier artist.
Make it happen.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna go 7 singles deep. We're gonna go. You know what I mean? It was like, watching that, seeing that, and saying, okay, well, y'all don't see that this works.
Yeah.
So you got 2 groups that have momentum. They have #1 albums. Why not double down? Why not triple down?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, we got #1 album and moving on. Like, wait a minute.
We're not done here.
Yeah, y'all could triple down on this, and this could be one of the biggest artists of all time if y'all do it right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, when you look over your body of work, I mean, really a quarter of a century that we have gotten a hit from you every single year for a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
How has your evolution and the evolution and landscape of the music industry, how has that changed? How has that rearranged you and how you approach music?
I think for me, it's all. I've never stopped learning. I'm always a student, right? So even with me, working working with LVRN and working alongside of like Justice and Carlin and Sean and Amber and the whole team, like they teach me things. I mean, I'm older, obviously, and I've been in business, a long time. But, talking to Justice, he actually teaches me things about the climate of the business. Like this thing has changed. The business has changed drastically since I've gotten into it. So I could have been like, oh man, people be like, oh, the business ain't what it used to be, and you gripe about it, and you don't get active to try to learn what's changed. For me, I've always been a person that always wants to learn. Like I want to learn what is going on and what is the climate, even if I don't understand it. There's a lot of things I don't understand. You know what I'm saying?
What's the one thing you're learning now in this new season?
Well, I'm learning that the ups and downs of streaming. I learned a lot about the mathematics of it a few years ago. Big shout out to my man Chris Anacute. He gave me like a real hard line conversation about the math of streaming. Um, I'm learning that, you know, no matter what, data is good, right? And people are making decisions based on data and every day. But when it comes to music, eventually it's always going to trend back to real music. It's going to trend back. People. I mean, even in the age of AI, right? Everybody's talking about AI and all.
An AI artist and signing multi-million-dollar deals.
But what is it going to like? You know what I mean?
Because people want to buy a concert ticket. They want to see you in person, right?
And human is nothing like the human experience.
Yeah.
Period, point blank, end of story. Even if somebody's doing AI, the person programming the AI got to put their experience into that AI, whatever that is. You know what I'm saying? But even then, it's like, can they convey it with the conviction and, what is it that's going to make it? Because we talk about the AI the artist that got the multi-million-dollar deal. Like, don't nobody, like, okay, cool, like, it was here today. We talked. They talked about it for a week, and now nobody's talking about it no more.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Because people want real connection.
At the end of the day, people, the human experience is something that people want. You know what I mean? So, it's and like I said, every day I'm learning. Like I'm in the trenches. I'm reading all the periodicals. You know what I mean? I'm doing my due diligence to stay abreast. And I think that's also why I've been able to kind of be in this thing as long as I have been.
I mean, now you got Ladies Love R&B.
Yep.
Every Wednesday, you're in the city of Atlanta.
Yep.
You got shows. Now you have a partnership with Live Nation. And you're doing live shows. You just recently had one at the Buckhead Theater.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, so Ladies of R&B kind of came, from, I think, a necessity. So my business partner, Keith Thomas, we was hanging out, going out, kicking it, going to clubs, it's by around 2017, late 2016, going to 2017. And this is when trap was like really, really heavy. Like trap was like, I think this might have been the peak of trap.
Yeah.
Trap, 2016 was like the peak of it. So you go to the club and that's all night. And this is when club turned, all these clubs turned into lounges. Now this is when sections start becoming big.
Sections and hookah.
Everything
and
started.
bottles.
This is literally when that started becoming like a big deal in the city. And what happened was they would. One of our DJs, his name is Mixmaster David, we would go to his party all the time on a Monday, and it would be trap. Then all of a sudden, he would have like an hour and a half of like R&B. Like around 12:30, he would go into a wild R&B set. You would see
Everybody
the lift,
dancing.
Like the spiritual lift. And then there was other parties happening, right? So then that was one thing, and then David was kind of moving around to different clubs. So we would like follow David or follow whatever DJ we thought was good. You know what I'm saying? So you would land at an Aroma Lounge on a random night, and whatever DJs in there, they would cater to whoever was in the crowd. So if you see a lot of people who are from the R&B community in the crowd, DJs start doing R&B. So we're looking around. I'm like, yo, look at how these parties lift when they go from trap to R&B. Then I was doing parties in East Atlanta. I was doing this party with a good friend of mine, Martina McFly, a party called Priceless at L Bar, a little tiny dive bar vibe on Ponce. And me, Martina, and DJ Mars would do this party. I believe it was on Thursday nights. Can't remember what night it was. But it was her party, but she brought us in and we would rock with her. It's a whole nother crowd, a whole nother vibe. East Atlanta, that's a whole different vibe.
East Atlanta, it is
right?
East Atlanta.
but we play R&B all night, and you would see just every week it'd be more packed. This small little tiny spot, it'd be like wall to wall in there, So just I started traveling, DJing around nation, doing R&B sets. I'm just like, yo. We got to figure out a way to bring this to the middle, to bring, this is really Keith's concept, to bring the mainstream, the people who were going to Rain and Vanquish and all those clubs, and the people who were at L Bar and at MJQ and all, how do we bring this to the middle? That was really the initial concept of Ladies of R&B. It was R&B Wednesdays initially. That's how the concept came together, because we had these conversations. So we did, so Ruggs, my man, Mr. Ruggs, he had a club called SL Lounge at the time. Keith's girlfriend was working there at the time, Janine. And Janine, he told Janine, like, hey, your boyfriend always bringing, people in. He's bringing B. Cox and he's bringing Usher. Like, he should do a party, And she hesitated initially, but then she ended up telling him. And then he told me, it was like, hey, man, the sale was, I was going through a lot during that period. So the sale was, hey, man, at least we get to, drink for free and hear the music we want to hear all night.
Yeah.
We might make some money, we might not.
Yeah.
But this is the deal. And, so I was like, okay.
We're going to have fun.
Make the deal. We have, and so it was rooted in just us having a good time. And the first night we had, Carrie Hilson, Usher, Jermaine, next thing you know, Trey's coming, Neo's coming, Polo the Don's coming, next thing you know, that's how it started. These are all our friends. These people that our community, came to support us early on. And then it just blew up, like literally, like after about 2 or 3 weeks, it was just kind of like, people start seeing pictures of these people who are our friends there. It was only us there for the first couple of weeks, like 25 people, 30 people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then we were doing these, we had ATL pics and we were posting pictures on our social media and things like that. So people see that, where y'all at? Then next thing you know, and then of course Ruggs, his community of people and his network, it was kind of like a perfect storm at the time. And then we've been just growing ever since,
I mean, that's 2016, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Now 2025,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing live whole concerts and got all the artists pulling up.
Everybody pulling up, yeah. I mean, for me, it was always, I always wanted to, we wanted to see it get to this place. We wanted to do the live show. We want to do a festival. We wanted to get to this place. So, we are grateful that we're at this place right now.
Yeah. I mean, you're working with new artists like Ari Lennox,
Mm-hmm.
who's solidified herself as a singer-songwriter.
Yeah, she's
amazing
fantastic.
Talent.
Yeah, fantastic.
Amazing talent.
Fantastic. Money Long, fantastic.
Oh, great songwriters.
Working with Kehlani, she's fantastic. We're just taking it as it comes, man, and having a good time with it.
I mean, I see this like shift right now. I feel like there are so many women that are writing the music, writing the songs right now.
I think that there's always been, women have always been prevalent in songwriting. You know what I'm saying? I just think that now they're getting the acknowledgement, they're getting the props. You know what I'm saying? But women, Andrea Martin, God rest the dead, incredible songwriter. Terry and Monica. There's so many writers I could name from the 90s. Faith Evans even. You know what I mean? That were doing their thing. It's just they weren't they weren't getting the props. You know what I'm saying? They were writing hits, but wasn't getting props. You know what I mean? So I think now, it's just really good to see, women get their props, and women, get their props as producers too, and as proper creatives. I think that's the most amazing thing to see happen.
Is there a songwriter who you've worked with? When you mentioned Joe earlier, are there other songwriters that you feel like, man, they just never got the just due, but they're absolutely amazing?
So many. It's a lot of people I know personally who I think are just, fantastic songwriters. You know what I mean? I still think Neil doesn't get the props he's supposed to get. Like, he's one of the most incredible songwriters.
Such a great songwriter.
But he's an artist and he sold a lot of records. So, maybe he feels like that's a trade-off. You know what I mean?
Because he started off as the producer.
Yes,
and came in front, to get.
But he's that pen is ridiculous. You know what I mean? I think that, my compadre Jonte. I think that Jonte Austin gets props inside of the building, inside of some of these walls. You know what I mean? But I still think he's completely. I believe he's underrated ridiculously. He's first ballot songwriter Hall of Fame right now. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that we're not having this conversation about him. It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Crystal, Crystal, I think her last name is Johnson. She wrote, Rihanna's, Only Girl in the World. She wrote Love All Over for me and Jermaine. Phenomenal songwriter, just, ridiculous with it. I think The Dream, now not getting the credits,
Man.
I think that he deserves more pomp and circumstance. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that we need to celebrate. I don't think songwriters get celebrated enough. Period.
I don't think so either.
You know what I mean?
I think because we just think about the artist who's performing the record, but I've always been the girl who goes to the credits to see who wrote the song and who produced the song. Even now, and I'll be like, dang, it's like 12 writers on that song. That shit was 2.5 minutes.
It all depends though too. Depends like on if there's samples and stuff like that. So now sample if somebody samples your music, you get your credit. So. That when I see 12 writers, I'm in the business, so when I see it, all that makes out there's a sample in here. There's not 12 people. There's rarely 12 people in the room, do like that. I've seen it happen a couple times, but that rarely happens. You know what I'm saying? Like usually there's 3 to 4 people at tops in a room coming up with something. You know what I mean? But so many. Adonis Shropshire, who I think is a phenomenal. I mean, he's one of our greats, and people don't talk about. He wrote "Say Goodbye with Me." He's just one of those people, you know what I mean? It's like so many people that I could rattle off that I think deserve more. You know what I mean? Deserve more.
Yeah. What excites you about this era of music?
What excites me about this era of music? I like that young artists are now reaching back, right? I like that an artist like Kehlani would tell me that she wants me to go through my hard drive and find songs from 2006 because she wants to do music like that, and update it. I like the fact that these young artists are going back and saying, "Hey, this stuff just got left on the table. Let's go back and grab that, and let's bring it back." And obviously, it happens in every era. But for a minute, I thought that, I felt like artists weren't doing that. For a minute, I thought that, we got into this real kind of dark, moody, vibey kind of R&B for a while, and which I think a lot of it's great, but just the art of actually songs, like having a hook and
and a bridge,
and like the art of that felt like they kids, the young artists were like, we done with that. So I kind of felt like that art was kind of about to be a lost art. But now I'm seeing a lot of the younger artists going back and saying, no, I want a bridge. I want a solid hook. I want, you know what I mean? And so that motivates me a lot. You know what I'm saying? And just, hearing artists like sing again, you know what I mean? Like QC has this artist named EJ who sound like he's, from like Al Green or something like that. You know what I'm saying? He's trying, you can tell he's attempting to do something that we haven't heard in a while. And, he sounds good. You know what I mean? Having an artist like Summer Walker, who I think is like, a modern day, Faith Evans meets Erykah Badu. Meets like she cut from the cloth. You know what I mean? Having an artist that writes and that sings and that plays and just cut from the cloth. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm working with an artist named Justin Martin, who is from Houston, also. Fantastic. I just cut from the same pedigree of understanding the foundation of this thing. You know what I mean? My artist Jack Freeman, he's a soul brother. You know what I mean? Which made me why I wanted to work with him, because I felt like he was a proper soul brother in this contemporary landscape that I feel like is palatable, that's digestible. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we're going for it. We're going for that. That sound. So I'm excited about. I'm excited about a lot of things. And that's also what keeps me motivated. So it's like, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you writing? What keeps you? It's things like that. It keeps me motivated. You know what I'm saying?
Is there somebody that you haven't worked with that you want to?
I worked with everybody.
Yeah, you have.
At
That's
some
why I'm
point,
like.
you know,
That's why I'm trying to be like,
yeah.
who is left on your list?
At some point, I've worked with everybody, but I haven't worked with Giveon. I like to do. I like to
First
work
of all,
with him.
his album is on repeat right now for me. I love his new album. I feel like it's a solid R&B album.
Yeah. I like Giveon a lot. I think that as an artist, I would definitely want to work with. SZA. I've not worked with SZA. I'd like to work with her.
I thought you were on Snooze. Oh.
I don't do Snooze. Snooze is I think Rodney. Rodney did Snooze, I think. No, I'm sorry. No. Babyface and Leon Thomas did Snooze.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't know why I thought you worked with her before.
No. I didn't do Snooze. I haven't done any work with SZA ever.
Oh, wow.
So I would like to work with her. I like to spin the block with Beyonce, you know?
Yeah.
Just see if we can get some of that childhood chemistry back. You know what I mean? Well, what I know now and what she knows now.
Oh, yeah.
Or if there's if there's a Destiny's Child reunion going on, I would love to be a part of that.
We got our fingers
right?
crossed.
I would love to be a part of that if that is something that's going to happen. I'm in talks to work with Kelly. Kelly's my girl. We're gonna figure that out. LaToya always, you know.
She's such an actress now, though.
Yeah, but she wants to make an album.
Because I'm like, I see her now. Of course, I know the Torn and all the records that she has, but child, when I see her, she is in her actress
she's killing it. She's killing the acting right now.
In her actress bag.
But she wants to make an album.
Yeah,
we're gonna figure it out.
I think that passion, as when you're somebody like a creative in that way, and you're a singer, a songwriter, that never leaves you.
Yeah, she wants to make an album. Yeah. We're gonna figure it out. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so yeah, I mean, there's a lot. You know, Usher is always, you know, he's the most consistent. Like, you know, he keeps us with him, so we're always writing for him. You know what I mean? You know, I'd love to, you know, spin the block with Chris. You know, Chris Brown. You know, we did Say Goodbye, did Winter. You know, I worked with him early on. I've worked with him throughout the years. I love to spin the block with him now. You know what I'm saying? And make something monumental with him. I mean, you know, every day, you know, I'm thinking about, you know, what we can knock off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, but new artists artists I've not worked with, you know, I would say SZA, Giveon, artists in that, you know, in that
which
category.
I can totally see you getting your handiwork in there for sure.
Yeah.
As we begin to close out, one word you're committed to in this season of your life.
One word I'm committed to in this season of my life. Peace. I might be too committed to peace.
Why you say it?
You know, my life is probably the most stable that it's been my entire life. You know what I'm saying? There was always something going on, up and down, and, you know, make a whole lot of money, spend a whole lot of money, broke for 2 years. You know, be like, like I've had, you know what I'm saying? I've had so many roller coasters. I've been on such a roller coaster when it comes to this life of mine. I think that at this point, with relationships, all kinds of craziness. Right now, I just have, you know, I'm raising my kid. And we have a lot of peace. Like, I don't come home to a lot of tumultuous things. I don't have to, you know, if I don't want to deal with it, I just don't deal with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I only have to be considerate of things that directly affect me. So like my son, my mom, and things of that nature. So I think that sometimes when you have that kind of stillness and peace in your personal life, it's hard to have somebody come into your life. You know, or whether, you know, a woman in a relationship, it's just hard to have that, because for me it's disruption. Now, it could be good disruption.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, and most, you know, but it's you get into a safety zone.
You sound like my girl Jill.
Yeah, you get into a safety zone, and you're like, man, you know, yeah, like every day is a peaceful day. Even when I'm doing business, it doesn't. I don't have no stress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I watch a lot of my compadres go through what they go through when it comes to relationships, I'll be like, can I add that to my life right now? You know what I'm saying? Like my life is so like I got so much going on already. So like that I enjoy it and I want to do. If I add this component to my life, like how is that gonna? Because you got to put the time in. You got to put it's so many different things that's happening. Yeah. So it's like that is a little bit of the tension that's happening in my life. But peace is like so important. You know what I mean? Like it's what allows me to have creativity. It's what allows me to have rest when I can't rest, when I'm like working all night and I gotta get 2 or 3 hours of sleep. That's like 2 or 3 or 4 hours of like super peaceful sleep. There's no, there's nothing heavy on my shoulders. There's no burden of what I gotta do for this person, that person. Just, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm committed to peace.
Committed to peace. Bryan-Michael Cox, it has been a pleasure to sit down with you.
It's amazing.
Your musical genius, what you have given to the culture. We are so grateful for everything that you have done.
I'm grateful to be here, and I appreciate all the love, for real, for real.
Vault and Power Talks, another good one for the books. Be sure to send this to someone who needs a little more peace in their life.
Yeah.
Until next time, I'm your girl, Brandi Harvey. Eat well, give a damn, move your body every single day. Peace.